As the fire in the hearth settles into glowing embers, their light flickering in slow, languid patterns, the room grows dimmer still. Shadows lengthen and stretch, softening the hard edges of furniture and tools alike. The loom, now empty of movement, seems almost to breathe quietly in the stillness, its beams holding the gentle weight of the day's work. The weaver remains seated nearby, eyes resting on the folded cloth, fingertips tracing its delicate texture once more. The woven fabric carries the story of the day, threads pulled tight in measured rhythm, colors mingling quietly in their simple pattern. The faint unevenness here and there is a gentle reminder that this cloth was made by human hands, not by machine. Each tiny imperfection is a whisper of the weaver's presence, a trace of breath, motion, and time. The quiet creak of the wooden floor beneath slow movements, the soft rustle of fabric, and the faint scratch of a pen on paper from a nearby notebook blend into a delicate symphony of stillness. Here, in this moment, the passage of time is subtle, marked not by clocks or bells, but by the ebb and flow of light and breath. The weaver's gaze drifts upward to the small window near the ceiling. The stars outside gleam faintly, like pinpricks of silver sewn into the dark fabric of the night. The crescent moon hangs low, a sliver of pale light that casts a gentle glow across the garden dot beyond the window. The garden is a quiet sea of shadow and muted scent. The soft shapes of lavender and rosemary blur together, their fragrances mingling with the cool night air. The breeze stirs the leaves gently, carrying the faintest whispers of the earth and distant wood smoke. For a long moment, the weaver breathes, in deeply feeling the cool, scented air fill the lungs and settle softly in the chest. Slowly, the body rises, stretching with ease after hours of stillness at the loom. The fingers reach toward the small basket of unfinished threads left over, yarns and fiber scraps carefully saved through the day. With tender care, these remnants are gathered and sorted by color and texture, wound into neat bundles destined to become stitch markers, mending yarn or filling for cushions and small textiles. No part of the day's work is wasted here. Every fiber is a promise, waiting patiently for its next transformation. The weaver moves next to the small wooden chest again, running fingertips along the worn surface, the faint scratches and dents telling silent stories of many years of use. Opening the lid, the soft colors of dyed yarn are revealed once more, the muted greens, the warm ochres and deep browns. A skein is lifted gently, its thread slipping easily through the fingers. The soft texture is cool and smooth, the result of careful dyeing and washing. The weaver allows the yarn to fall softly back into the chest, savoring the quiet pleasure of this simple touch. Nearby, the table holds a small candle burning low, its flame steady and small. The scent of beeswax rises faintly, mingling with the warmth of the fire and the coolness of the night air. The weaver approaches the hearth, adding a small piece of kindling to the embers to coax a soft, flickering flame. The light brightens. Slowly, its amber glow weaving golden patterns across the walls and ceiling. Seated once more by the fire, the weaver draws the warm shawl close around the shoulders, its soft wool comforting and familiar. The fingers fold and unfold the edges of the fabric, feeling its weight and texture. The mind drifts gently to the threads of the day, the slow carding of wool, the steady spinning, the rhythmic passing of the shuttle through the loom. Each Movement was a meditation, a simple act repeated over and over, becoming a quiet dance between hands and fibers dot in this quiet evening light. The weaving is more than cloth. It is a story, a memory, a peaceful act that connects the weaver to this world around them. The breath grows slow and steady. The eyes begin to close. Outside, a soft chorus of night creatures sings its lullaby. The distant hoot of an owl, the gentle chirp of crickets, and the whisper of wind through the trees blend into a soothing soundtrack. The weaver's breathing matches the rhythm of these sounds, slow, even, unhurried. The body relaxes further, muscles unwinding after the day's steady work. The heart beats softly, steady, and calm. The warmth of the fire seeps into the bones, a gentle pulse of comfort. A few moments pass in complete stillness, broken only by the faint crackle of the fire and the subtle rise and fall of breath. The weaver's thoughts fade like a gentle tide, retreating softly into the background. The room grows quieter still. A final breath is drawn deeply. The day closes softly, folded into the quiet night. The loom rests quietly in the dim light, its wooden frame bathed in the soft glow of the fading day. Every beam and peg, every notch and scar holds the gentle memory of years spent in patient weaving. The cloth, now complete for the day, lies folded carefully on the bench, its soft surface cool beneath the fingers, smooth where countless passes of the shuttle have pressed the fibers close together. The weaver moves slowly through the cottage, the rhythm of the day giving way to a softer, more languid pace. The fire's warmth lingers in the hearth, the last embers glowing faintly, breathing quiet heat into the room. The smell of wood smoke mingles with the faint scent of beeswax and the natural lanolin of wool, a calm perfume that fills the small space. Hands reach for the tools used throughout the day. The shuttle, shaped and polished by time and touch, is lifted with gentle care. The surface is smooth and warm, worn slightly from years of movement through warped threads. Fibers cling faintly to the edges, tiny whispers of the day's work that the weaver brushes away with a soft cloth. The shuttle is placed on a low shelf beside the loom, nestled among bobbins wound with various colored yarns, cream, gray, soft green, and ochre. Each thread a memory of hours patiently spun and dyed. The heddles, slender loops of strong thread or fine wire, are checked one by one. The weaver's fingers run along each loop, ensuring none are twisted or damaged. Where needed, knots are retied with care. The heddles are arranged neatly, ready to be strung again when the next weaving begins. Beside the loom lies a small pile of scrap yarn and loose fibers. The weaver gathers these gently, rolling them into a soft ball to be saved and reused, nothing wasted here. Each bit of fiber holds the promise of warmth and softness, destined for future craft. The carders and combs, so vital earlier in the day, are taken up and cleaned carefully. Wooden paddles with fine metal teeth are brushed clear of tangled fibers, the teeth gleaming faintly in the twilight. The carder's surfaces are wiped with a dry cloth to remove the faint residue of lanolin and dust. These tools will rest until the next morning, patient and silent. The loom itself calls for attention. The beams, worn smooth with the caress of hands over many years, are wiped with a cloth lightly dipped in warm beeswax and oil. The process is slow and meditative. The cloth follows the grain of the wood, coaxing a gentle sheen from the aged surface. The scent of the wax is soft and comforting, a balm that seems to settle in the air around the weaver. The light in the room dims further as the sun sinks below the horizon. Shadows stretch long and deep across the wooden floorboards, folding the space into a hushed, gentle twilight. Outside the window, the garden fades into muted shapes and shades. The outline of the lavender bushes sways softly in the evening breeze, their fragrance lingering faintly in the cool air. The weaver moves toward a small wooden chest tucked in the corner. The lid creaks quietly as it opens, revealing skeins of yarn in subdued hues: sage green, muted gold, soft browns, and grays. The colors seem to echo the quiet earth tones of the cottage and garden, calm and unassuming, ready to be woven into new cloth when the time comes. One skein is lifted with reverence and held gently. The thread slips softly through the fingers, smooth and strong, cool to the touch, but warmed by the hands. The skein is wound slowly into a loose coil, the strands falling easily, almost weightless. The weaver smiles faintly, recalling the hours spent spinning the fibers from raw wool, the slow transformation from fleece to thread. The chest is closed softly. The lid settles with a quiet finality, a seal on the day's labors. The weaver pauses by the window, gazing out into the evening. The sky is a deepening blue-gray, dusted with faint stars that blink slowly, shyly. The moon is a thin crescent, hanging low and delicate like a silver thread stitched across the dark fabric of the sky. The garden rests beneath this quiet sky. The scent of damp earth rises faintly, mingling with the lingering perfume of flowers and herbs. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves of the old tree near the gate, rustling softly like a whispered lullaby. The weaver breathes deeply, inhaling the cool, scented air, feeling the calm settle into the bones inside. The warmth of the cottage wraps softly around the body. The fire's embers glow faintly, casting a flickering light that plays across the rough walls and the scattered tools. The quiet is deep and full, a cocoon of stillness. The day's work has ended. The cloth is complete, the tools are resting, and the hands are still. The weaver moves toward the hearth to prepare for the night. A basin of warm water is fetched from the small wooden cupboard. The temperature is gentle, soothing to the tired hands. Slowly, fingers are dipped into the water, rubbed softly together to wash away the fine dust of wool fibers and the faint residue of oils from the day's work. The water catches the light from the fire as it ripples gently with the motion of the hands. The sound is soft and comforting, the gentle splash of water in a quiet room. When the hands are clean, the water is poured outside into the garden. The flow nourishes a small patch of mint and thyme that grows near the gate, the herbs releasing their scent in a soft breath as the water touches the earth. Returning inside, the weaver prepares a simple meal to close the day, a bowl of vegetable broth, warm and clear, with pieces of soft and root vegetables. Bread, baked the day before, is torn into thick pieces and savored slowly. Each bite is mindful, the taste mild but satisfying. After the meal, the weaver prepares the small bed in the corner. The blankets are folded and arranged with care, each layer smoothed flat. The mattress, firm and low, promises rest and comfort. A final glance around the cottage reveals the gentle order of the space, the neatly stacked firewood, the folded cloth on the shelf, the soft light from a small oil lamp beginning to glow. Weaver settles down into the bed, pulling the woven blanket up to the chin. The fabric is soft and warm, familiar and soothing. Eyes close slowly as the body relaxes fully, muscles loosening, breath slowing. Outside, the night deepens still. The sounds of the day have faded to a whisper, a distant owl's call, the rustling of leaves, the soft murmur of the night breeze. The fire in the hearth burns low, its warmth a gentle presence, and the world grows quiet. Evening quiet and rest, the night settles softly around the cottage, folding every corner into a quiet embrace. The last light from the window slips away, leaving only the glow of embers in the hearth to warm the dim room. The weaver moves slowly through the small space, tidying the tools of the day with careful hands. Each motion is deliberate and calm, the slow stacking of wooden implements, the gentle coiling of leftover threads, the placing of cloth in neat piles. Outside, the garden rests beneath a deepening sky. The soft murmur of leaves sways in the breeze. A single moth drifts lazily past the open window, its wings brushing the faint candlelight inside. The air carries the warm scent of beeswax and wood smoke, mingling with the faint trace of wool washed. In the morning sun, the weaver moves toward the small bed, its mattress low and firm, covered with woven blankets. Each layer is smoothed with care, a final act of the day's rhythm. The shawl folded nearby becomes a pillow of sorts, soft and worn as the fire dims to glowing coals. The weaver settles down. Eyes close softly, breathing slows. The mind drifts, touched by the memories of threads pulled and woven, of patterns grown slowly with patience. The room holds only calm. No sudden sounds, no bright lights. Only the whisper of night outside. A barn owl calls once, long and low. The weaver listens, then lets the sound slip away. Back into the darkness, the heart slows. The breath deepens, and the world fades gently into rest. Folding the day. The sun has lowered itself beyond the trees now, casting long shadows that stretch across the wooden floor like soft fingers reaching to touch the walls. The light has changed from gold to a muted amber, warm but gentle, as if the day itself is sighing softly before sleep. Inside the cottage, the loom stands silent, its frame bathed in the dimming light. The cloth rests neatly rolled upon the front beam, its surface cool and soft to the touch. The weaver rises slowly from the bench, muscles easing from hours spent bent over the threads. The hands that wove the fabric are now quiet, resting gently. In the lap, fingers trace the cloth's edge, noting the evenness of the weave, the subtle variations that tell its story. The weaver moves to gather tools. The shuttle is lifted from its resting place, cleaned of stray fibers and placed carefully on a wooden shelf beside the loom. The heddles are checked one last time, each loop examined, smoothed, and tied gently if needed. A soft cloth is drawn from a basket and used to wipe the loom's beams, polishing the wood until it seems to glow faintly in the low light. The fire, too, receives attention. The embers are stirred gently, coaxed to a soft warmth with a handful of kindling. Soon a faint flame flickers, casting dancing shadows that flicker calmly against the walls. Nearby, a basin of warm water is prepared. The weaver dips hands slowly into the water, the warmth a welcome contrast to the cool evening air. Fingers rub together, washing away the fine dust of wool and ash, the skin softening with each gentle movement. The water is poured outside, where it feeds a small patch of mint by the garden gate. The scent of the herb rises faintly, mingling with the cool night air. Dot at a small table. A simple supper awaits: warm bread, soft cheese, and a bowl of vegetable broth. The weaver eats slowly, savoring each bite, the flavors mild but comforting. After the meal, the cloth is folded carefully. The fabric is turned over and smoothed flat, the edges aligned with quiet precision. Fold by fold, the cloth becomes smaller, a neat bundle of effort and time. The finished piece is placed on a low shelf, ready to rest until its next use be it clothing, blankets, or the quiet beauty of hand-woven cloth. Dot, as night deepens, the cottage grows still. The fire burns low. Outside, the stars begin to appear, soft points of light in the deepening sky. The weaver sits near the hearth, wrapped in a shawl of their own making, the day's work close at hand. Breath slows, eyes close. The quiet hum of the world outside, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a night bird, becomes a gentle lullaby. Dot, the day folds in on itself, thread by thread, moment by moment, until there is only stillness. The rhythm of work. Asterisk, the day is full now, not rushed, not noisy, but steady, a quiet fullness, the kind that comes when the world has settled into its pattern. Light rests gently across the floor, the hearth lies still, and the tools no longer ask for attention. They simply respond. At the loom, the weaver works in silence, thread by thread, line by line. The cloth grows beneath the weaver's hands. It stretches forward in a slow and measured body, a fabric born not of speed, but of patience. The pattern remains simple, alternating grays and cream-colored lines, each pressed gently into place with the swing of the beater. The motion has become second nature, muscle memory softened by care. A foot presses the treadle, the shed opens, the shuttle glides through. Another foot presses, the beater taps. The rhythm is not fast, and it is never forced. There is a pause between each motion, a breath, a blink, the shifting of weight on the bench, a glance at the warped threads to ensure no tangle has formed, no slack has crept in. From time to time, the weaver lifts a hand and gently tightens a thread, or leans forward to examine a small variation in the texture of the yarn. Not to fix it, just to notice it. Even small differences become part of the cloth. A skipped twist, a thicker weft thread, a place where two colors touch unexpectedly. These aren't mistakes. They are the weaver's fingerprint. Each moment spent at the loom is unmarked by time. There is no ticking clock, no call for progress. Only the forward inching of fabric, like the slow drawing of a map. A quiet landscape unfolding, thread by thread. After an hour, perhaps more, the weaver stops. Hands rest on thighs. Shoulders ease back. The bench creaks as weight shifts. The cloth is touched gently, fingers resting across its surface. It is still warm from the hands that wove it. The edge is smooth. The rows are even. There is still more to do, but not. Right now, now, the weaver stands and steps away. Outside, the air is cooler than before. A soft breeze moves the tops of the trees, and in the distance, someone is walking the footpath. A pair of geese rest near the stream, heads tucked into their wings. The weaver crosses the small garden, stepping between planted herbs and winding pea vines. The ground is dry now, but the soil still holds the scent of morning. A wooden bench sits beneath the old tree, its bark worn, its branches twisted but strong. The weaver sits, closes their eyes, listens. There is no machinery, no distant roar of noise, just the creak of tree limbs, the soft breath of leaves rubbing together, and the hush of wind as it moves across the tall grass. The breath slows, naturally. One in, one out, the same way the shuttle moves, the same way the day unfolds. In the distance, a wooden gate creaks open and closed. Someone's cart shifts along the dirt track. A bird calls, 3 short notes, then a pause. Nothing asks for attention. It simply exists. The weaver opens their eyes and looks upward. The sky is soft, pale blue, with faint white streaks pulled across it like brushed linen. A few small clouds hover low, not in a hurry to go anywhere. After a while, the weaver stands again and walks slowly back toward the cottage. The door opens with a low groan. Familiar and welcome. Inside, the air is warmer. It carries the scent of wool, oil, and sunlight. The loom stands waiting, not with urgency, but with patience. The weaver returns to the bench. The cloth has not moved since they left it. The last thread remains loose, still waiting for its next. Line. Hands pick up the shuttle. Feet rest again on the treadles. The rhythm resumes. And so the afternoon continues, measured by thread, not time. The loom awakens. The room has grown quiet again. Outside, the morning has passed gently into midday, and the cottage is filled with a soft golden light that stretches through the window and rests along the floor. The shadows are deeper now, but still kind, curling at the corners of the loom, stretching along the lines of the bench where tools rest. The weaver stands before the loom. It is large, though not imposing. Crafted from oak and ash, its structure is broad and sturdy, worn smooth from use. Each surface tells a story. A notch here from where a shuttle once dropped. A stain there, dark and faded, from years past when dye spilled unnoticed. The loom is quiet, still, but it is ready. The weaver moves slowly, now no longer spinning, no longer carding, but shifting into a different rhythm altogether. The act of weaving is not just one of hands and thread. It is one of breath and patience, of tension and balance, of small repeated choices that build, line by line, into something lasting. At the side of the loom rests a bundle of warp thread long, strands prepared the day before, carefully measured, tied, and hung across the warping board in the corner. Today they will be threaded onto the loom, one by one. The weaver lifts the warp carefully and drapes it across the back beam. Each strand is drawn forward over the warp beam, through the heddles, then the reed, and finally on to the front beam, where the cloth will grow. It is a task that takes time. The heddles are fine loops of thread or wire, suspended in even rows across 2 shafts. The weaver threads the warp slowly through them, alternating the pattern over, under, according to the planned design. Each thread is guided by hand, passed through the heddle eye with the help of a fine hook, then drawn gently forward. The rhythm is unhurried, and with each motion, the loom begins to come alive, not in movement, but in potential. As the last warp thread finds its place, the weaver pauses. A breath is drawn. The tension of the threads is checked, light pressure applied to test their give. One is too loose. It is adjusted, gently wrapped one turn more around the back beam. The alignment is checked again. Now they are even, taut, but not strained. Ready dot at the bench, the shuttle waits a narrow boat-shaped tool of polished wood, its center hollowed to hold a bobbin wound with freshly spun yarn. The bobbin hums faintly as it's inserted into the shuttle, its yarn smooth and clean. The end is drawn out, long enough to begin. The weaver sits before the loom. Feet settle on the treadles, which rest like wooden paddles near the floor. Hands take the beater, an upright bar suspended on either side by cords and hinged near the base. It swings freely, used to press each row of thread into place. The weaver lifts the heddles with the treadles 1 foot down. The shafts rise, opening a shed between the warped threads. The first shed opens wide, and the weaver passes the shuttle through. It slides cleanly across the bench, trailing its fine thread behind. The beater swings forward, gently tap. The thread is set. The other foot presses now. The shafts shift. A new shed opens. The shuttle returns tap, thread after thread. The cloth begins It is barely noticeable. At first, just a few lines pressed together. But the rhythm forms quickly. Foot, shed, throw, catch, tap. Foot, shed, throw, catch, tap, it. As a music without sound, outside the breeze is quieted. A few birds still murmur in the hedge. The stream at the base of the hill moves softly, unseen. But inside the cottage, the loom sings its slow, even song. The weaver does not hurry. Each row is a decision, each line a record. The pattern is simple, alternating. Rows of dark gray and undyed cream, spaced evenly, no embellishment. But it is this very simplicity that offers calm. No boldness, no drama. Just slow, honest work. From time to time, the shuttle runs low. The weaver pauses to wind more yarn onto the bobbin, using a small hand-cranked winder by the window. The soft whir of the crank is like wind turning a wheel, light and brief. Once full, the bobbin is slipped back into the shuttle, and the weaving continues. Each time the weaver stops, the room shifts slightly. Muscles stretch. Hands are rubbed together. A sip of cool water is taken from a clay jug nearby. Then the loom resumes. Thread by thread, the fabric grows in the quiet of the afternoon. The light shifts again. The sun, now lower, spills golden over the loom. Dust rises faintly in the air as the beater presses each thread into place. The weaver watches it fall, drifting gently. There is no sense of urgency, no goal beyond the cloth itself. And so the work continues. Preparing the fibers, the light in the room has settled. No longer the cool tones of dawn, now warmed by the rising sun. It slides softly across the floorboards, catching in the fibers of the wool, resting on the loom's crossbeam, casting. Gentle shadows across the woven basket beside the door. The spindle rests now, placed carefully in its tray, wrapped with the newly spun yarn from the morning's quiet work. But the day is still young, and the fibers must be prepared further. Across the room, a low bench sits beneath a shuttered window, and beside it, leaning against the wall, is a bundle of raw wool. It was sheared some weeks ago, washed by hand in warm water, dried over racks in the shade, and now waits, loose and tousled, full of potential dot. The weaver crosses the room and kneels beside it. A soft cloud of lanolin scent rises earthy, slightly sweet. This batch is soft but uneven in texture. Some sections are smooth, others coarser, still holding small flecks of straw and burdock, no matter. That, too, is part of the work. A wooden stool is drawn near, and a wide lapcloth is spread across the knees. The wool is gathered by the handful, then teased gently apart. Fingers work slowly, loosening the tangles, pulling each lock so it breathes, separating thick from fine, clean from debris. That is quiet work, thoughtful. A bird chirps outside, answered by another further away. Inside, the only sounds are the soft pull of fibers and the faint rustle of hands working through fleece dot after teasing. The wool is drawn through a pair of combs' wooden handles with rows of blunt, evenly spaced nails. The teeth catch the fibers and align them, smoothing them out, pulling them into long, straight strands. It is slow and patient work dot with each pass through the combs. The wool begins to change, not in color, but in order, from wild, clouded tufts to organized, gleaming ribbons. When the strands are ready, the weaver rolls them between the palms, forming neat, firm rowlegs. These small cylinders will feed the spindle later easy to draw, even to twist. Beside the bench, a basket slowly fills. Each rowleg is placed carefully, side by side, their texture pillowy, their weight nearly nothing. A full basket may take an hour, sometimes two. There is no need to watch the time. Occasionally, the weaver pauses to rise, stretch, and step outside. The door creaks again as it opens, and fresh air greets the room. The cottage sits near the edge of a low hill, and from its doorway one can see the outline of the footpath that winds along the stream. Today a pair of ducks drift quietly there, their shapes barely disturbing the surface of the water. The weaver steps onto the garden stones. Dew has lifted, leaving the scent of earth and damp wood. A hand brushes against the lavender plant near the wall, its scent releasing in a subtle breath. Bees have already found it. One hums past the weaver's ear, calm and single dash minded dot in the shed nearby. Bundles of flax hang drying. The weaver glances toward them. They will be processed another day, redded, broken, scutched, and heckled, but not today. Today is wool, simple, familiar, forgiving. Returning inside, the scent of wool and warm air welcomes again. The fire, reduced now to embers, still holds enough heat to keep the space gentle. A small pot sits nearby with melted beeswax, used for smoothing threads, and protecting tools. The weaver picks up a spindle, again not to spin yet, but to inspect yesterday's work. The thread is consistent, clean. It will do dot with the rowlegs ready. The spinning resumes. The weaver sits at the edge of the loom bench, near the window again, where the light falls best. One rowleg is unrolled and joined to the spindle stale. A flick of the fingers sets the spindle turning. The sound is quiet but present, a soft hum, like wind over canvas. The weaver draws the wool gently, feeding the fibers into the twist with care. The rhythm is even, almost meditative. Fingers pinch and draw, guiding the twist. The spindle descends slowly with the weight of the growing yarn, then is caught and wound before beginning again. Time passes. A warm breeze shifts the curtain beside the window. Outside, someone walks by with a pair of goats. their bells chiming softly. The weaver doesn't look up. There's no need. The world outside is distant, kind, and slow. After several dozen rolags, the spindle is full. The thread is removed and wound into a soft skein, tied at four corners with a thin cotton string to keep it from tangling. It will rest for now, ready to be washed and finished before weaving. The weaver sets the bundle beside the others on the shelf, cream, slate gray, and a few dyed with onion skins and nettle, giving them a warm gold or soft green. A moment of quiet follows. The tools are wiped with a cloth wood polished with oil, bristles freed of tangles, COMB stacked neatly. A small bowl of water is brought from the shelf. The weaver dips both hands in and rubs them, slowly removing the fine dust of fibers and oils. The bowl is emptied into the garden outside, where a patch of mint grows in the shade. The wind has shifted now, a little stronger but still kind. The sun is high and steady. The fibers are ready. Now the loom will speak. The cup is warm between both hands. Smooth clay, slightly imperfect at the rim where the glaze thins. The warmth of the barley tea seeps through the fingers, comforting. The weaver takes another sip, slowly. Eyes rest, not on anything in particular, but in the soft distance beyond the window, where grass bends slowly in the wind, and the garden gate swings slightly on its hinge. Every item in the room has a place, and every place has a purpose. The shelf above the hearth holds bundles of wool, each one labeled with small hand-cut parchment slips tied with thin thread. Coarse gray, soft white, blended spring fleece. They lean against a jar of beeswax polish and a small tin of lamp oil, both capped tightly. Nearby, a low wooden bench supports the tools of yesterday's work, carding brushes, a spindle still holding the end of a wound skein, and a thin wooden comb used for separating coarser threads. The morning light has grown slightly warmer, now no longer just gray-blue, but touched with pale yellow. It spills in soft shapes onto the floor, filtered through the smudged window pane. Dust dances slowly in the beam, swirling in a rhythm no hand controls. The weaver watches it for a while. There is no need to rush. On the table, the breakfast is nearly finished. A corner of bread remains, soft with melted cheese. A small wooden knife rests beside the plate, its handle smoothed by years of use. The weaver eats the final bite slowly, eyes half closed. After a pause, the plate is lifted, the cup drained, and both are set gently into a shallow basin. A small jug of water is poured over them, and a cloth is used to wipe them clean. The cloth is rinsed, wrung out, and hung to dry on a nail by the door. Each action is quiet, methodical, not out of obligation, but rhythm, a slow way of being. From a hook near the hearth, the weaver takes a thick woolen shawl. It smells faintly of cedar wood. Draped over the shoulders, it offers warmth against the lingering chill. The fire is burning low but steady now, not large, just enough to keep the air comfortable. The weaver crosses the room toward the loom, but pauses beside the bowl of wool. Before weaving, the threads must be prepared. The bowl is lifted and brought to the low table by the window. Light pools there, soft and warm, perfect for delicate work. The wool has already been washed and dried, combed into smooth locks, but it still must be teased and drawn out gently into long, workable strands. A pair of carding brushes is taken in hand. One is flat against the lap. The other moves across it with slow, even pressure. The motion is repetitive and calming back and forth, the teeth of the brushes catching and separating the fibers, pulling them into a uniform direction. With each pass, the wool becomes more cloud-like fluffy, pliant, light as breath. Occasionally, the weaver pauses to lift the brushes apart, to gently pull away a neat rolled tube of carded fiber, then begins again. The rhythm of the brushing is soft, a faint rasping, like leaves against wood. The scent of the wool rises with the heat of the room, clean, earthy, slightly sweet. This work could take an hour or longer. There's no reason to hurry. The cloth will wait. Outside, the morning continues. Insects hum beyond the windowsill. A cart rolls softly in the distance, pulled by a quiet donkey. Somewhere nearby, a child laughs, then hushes. Life moves gently in the world outside the cottage, as it does within. Once the bowl is filled with neat rolags, the weaver sets the brushes aside and reaches for the spindle. A simple tool, just a wooden shaft with a balanced whirl at the bottom, worn smooth from hundreds of mornings like this one. The weaver attaches the end of a rolag to the shaft, gives it a firm flick, and begins spinning. The fibers are pulled, slowly, steadily, twisting as they go. The motion is hypnotic. Draw, twist, wind, again. Draw, twist, wind. The spindle hums faintly as it turns. The weaver's fingers work with practiced ease, never tugging, never rushing. Just a slow, steady drafting of wool into thread. With every rotation, the thread grows longer, more even. The spindle grows heavier with it. From time to time, the weaver stops to unwind the spun yarn and wrap it carefully around the shaft, then begins again. The action is quiet, repetitive. Like a breath stretched long and slow dot, it is easy to lose track of time like this. Outside, the sun has risen higher. Now, it touches the tops of the trees, casts patterns of leaves across the garden path. Inside, the cottage is warmer. The fire is nearly out. Only soft embers remain, glowing red among the ash. There is no need to rekindle it. The warmth of the morning is enough now. A handful of finished thread lies coiled in a shallow wooden tray, waiting to be dyed or woven. The weaver stretches again, shoulders back, hands flexed. The shawl is folded and placed over the stool. A deep breath is taken. The loom still waits. Today, the pattern will continue fine wool in alternating shades of charcoal and sand. A simple design, but clean. Measured dot, but first, the thread must be checked for tension. The bobbin inspected, the heddles adjusted. Each piece of the loom must be considered before the shuttle ever moves. That, too, is part of the morning. The weaver walks slowly toward the loom and places a hand on the upper beam. The wood is warm from sunlight. A small creak sounds as the frame shifts under pressure. A smile, faint and quiet, touches the weaver's face. It will be a good day to weave. Waking to thread and light. The world is still quiet. Outside, a soft gray light rests over the thatched rooftops, and the wind moves slowly between tall grass and cottage fences. Inside a small wooden home, nestled among hedgerows and sleepy trees, the air is cool, dry, and peaceful. There is no clock, no rush, just the quiet rhythm of morning unfolding, one moment at a time. A single window, its shutters loosely latched, lets in a faint thread of light. It glows dimly across a low-beamed ceiling, touching the edge of a straw mattress laid neatly on a wooden frame. The weaver lies still, eyes closed, warm beneath a thick woolen blanket that smells faintly of lanolin and lavender. The hearth is silent now, ash-gray, cool to the touch. But soon it will come alive again, not with noise, but with quiet, practical. Fire just enough for warmth and tea. The blanket is folded back slowly. The air meets skin in a soft chill. Wool socks are drawn on with calloused fingers. A warm linen shirt is slipped over the shoulders. It seems faintly rough from years of careful hand-washing. A long brown apron is looped at the waist, stitched. At the corners, stiff with the scent of past days' work. The floorboards creak gently with each step, broad planks, uneven with time, smooth from barefoot passage dot by the window. The latch is lifted. The shutters groan slightly as they open. To the morning, the gray-blue sky is low and still. In the hedgerow, sparrows shuffle sleepily. A dog barks in the distance twice, then silence. The weaver looks out over the garden. A small patch of flax waits to be pulled in a few weeks' time. Nearby, a bundle of dried willow rests against the shed ready for basket making. The world feels paused here. Measured dot on a shelf by the hearth, a small clay jug of water is lifted and poured carefully into a blackened kettle. The weaver moves without hurry, familiar motions, done many mornings before. A handful of kindling is drawn from a woven basket, placed neatly into the hearth's belly. The old flint is struck once, twice, then a faint spark catches. Soon, the fire is alive again, small, steady. The kettle sits over it, supported by a blackened iron hook. It begins to hum softly as the flames gently lick the base dot. In the meantime, hands reach for the bread from yesterday cooled and wrapped in cloth, still soft. A knife slices it carefully. The crust crackles. A smear of soft cheese is added, and a piece of dried apple placed beside it on a wooden plate dot at a short-legged table. The weaver sits, knees folded to the side, the plate beside a steaming mug of barley tea. The first bite is taken slowly. The room smells of ash, wool, and toast. There is no noise beyond the kettle's breath and the soft hum of sparrows returning to their song. On the wall opposite, the loom waits. It stands like a quiet sentinel tall, broad, made of oak beams worn smooth by touch and time. Threads still hang from yesterday's cloth-fine wool stretched taut between wooden rods, a shuttle resting midway along its path. But the loom will wait. The morning must stretch itself out first. There's no rush dot nearby. A wooden stool with a bowl of carded wool sits in the corner. The wool is soft-cleaned and combed the day before, ready for spinning. In the quiet of this early hour, the fibers seem to almost glow with pale softness, the color of cream and smoke. The weaver steps outside. The door creaks open and the early air folds in around them. The soil is damp underfoot. Somewhere a bee hums. The garden is still, save for the motion of a curtain of ivy twitching in the breeze. The weaver stretches gently arms high overhead, then folded back behind. Joints crack softly, not unpleasantly. A slow breath is taken in, then let out. The day is beginning, but only just. It will be slow, as all good weaving days are. Back inside, the fire has grown brighter. The kettle whistles softly. The tea is poured out, seated once more by the window. The weaver sips, eyes resting on the quiet trees in the distance. There's a hedgehog under the hedge, nosing about. A robin hops across the garden fence. These moments are as much a part of the day as any work. The loom can wait. The cloth will be made, one line at a time. For now, the breath of the world moves gently through the room.